Hana stood with her face pressed against the cold glass of the observation window. Below her, the alien planet stretched out in shades of purple and green. Strange trees with silver leaves swayed in the wind. In the distance, mountains rose like broken teeth against an orange sky. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. 3 long years of training, studying, and arguing with people who said humans were too weak for this mission, too soft, too breakable. The Galactic Council had made it very clear that they thought sending humans to Vareth 7 was a terrible idea. "You're really going through with this?" a voice said behind her. Hana turned to see Captain Jinwoo Park, walking across the observation deck. He was a tall man with gray starting to show in his hair. He had the tired look of someone who had fought too many battles with paperwork. "Yes, sir," Hana said. "The council approved my research proposal." "They approved it because I told them humans deserved a chance to prove themselves," Jinwoo said. He came to stand beside her, looking down at the planet. "But I need you to understand something. 3 expeditions have gone down there. 3 expeditions have been destroyed by the Ravex. These creatures are not like anything you studied on Earth." Hana had read the reports so many times she could recite them from memory. The Ravex were apex predators. They stood nearly 3 meters tall when fully grown. They had teeth like knives and claws that could tear through metal. They hunted in packs and showed high intelligence. Every species that had encountered them had failed to make peaceful contact. "I know the risks," Hana said quietly. "Do you?" Jinwoo asked. He pulled up a hologram from his wrist device. Images floated in the air between them. The Kelvorians sent 50 soldiers. Only 5 came back. The Elanti tried peaceful negotiation. The Ravex ate their entire diplomatic team, and the Threx Corporation thought they could capture some for study. We never found out what happened to them. Hana looked at the images. Destroyed equipment, claw marks on metal walls, blood stains that had been analyzed and catalogued. She knew Jinwoo was trying to scare her. Maybe he should scare her, but something deep in her gut told her that everyone before had been approaching this wrong. "Captain, every species that went down there treated the Ravex like monsters," Hana said. "They went in with weapons ready. They saw predators and assumed that meant enemies. But humans were different." "Different how?" "We used to be predators too," Hana said. "Earth's history is full of humans living alongside dangerous animals. We turned wolves into dogs. We domesticated cats that could kill us in our sleep. We learned to read the body language of creatures that wanted to eat us, and we made them into our partners." Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. "You get one chance, Dr. Choi. One expedition to the surface. You'll go with a Kelvorian guide named Thriss and a Yulanti scout called Prex. Both of them have experience on hostile worlds. If anything goes wrong, I'll follow emergency protocols," Hana promised. The next morning, Hana found herself sitting in a landing craft with her 2 alien companions. Thriss was a small creature, barely reaching Hana's waist, with gray skin and 4 arms. He kept checking his weapons every few minutes. His people had lost many soldiers to the Ravex. Prex was taller, with smooth blue skin and large eyes that seemed to take in everything. The Yulanti were known as excellent scouts, but even they had failed on Vareth 7. Prex moved with the careful steps of someone who expected danger at every moment. "You understand the rules, human?" Thriss asked as their craft descended. "We stay together. We do not approach any Ravex. We observe from maximum safe distance. At first sign of danger, we return to ship." "I understand," Hana said. They landed in a clearing far from any known Ravex dens. The plan was simple. They would set up monitoring equipment, take samples of the local plant life, and map the area. Boring science work that would keep them away from the predators that ruled this world. But as they worked, Hana kept noticing things. The way certain trees had claw marks at specific heights. The patterns of disturbed earth near a stream. Small caves that showed signs of recent use. She had studied animal behavior on Earth for 10 years before joining the space program. These weren't just hunting signs. These were the marks of a complex social structure. "Look at this," Hana called to the others. She pointed at a series of scratches on a tree trunk. "These marks are deliberate. They're too regular to be random." "Territorial markings," Prex said nervously. "We should leave." "No, look at the height," Hana said. She put her hand next to the marks. They were lower than an adult Ravex could make while standing. These were made by juveniles. Young ones. "They're playing here." "Playing?" Thriss made a sound like a laugh. "Ravex do not play. They kill." But Hana was already following the signs. More scratches. Small tracks in the soft earth. A path that led away from the clearing toward a rocky outcrop. Her heart was beating faster. This was it. This was what she had come here to find. Dr. Choi, stop, Prex said sharply. You are leaving the safe zone. I'm just going to look, Hana said. You two can wait here. I'll stay in radio contact. This is against protocol, Thriss said. I know, Hana said. She was already walking. Behind her, she heard her companions arguing in harsh whispers. They would probably report her when they got back to the ship. She might lose her position, but something was pulling her forward. A feeling she couldn't explain. The rocky outcrop had caves, small ones perfect for young creatures to hide and explore. Hana crouched behind a large boulder and waited. The sun was warm on her back. Strange birds sang in the silver trees. For a moment, everything was peaceful. Then she heard it, a soft shuffling sound from the nearest cave. Something was coming out. Hana held her breath. A head emerged from the darkness. It was smaller than she expected, about the size of a large dog from Earth. But there was no mistaking what it was. The forward-facing eyes of a predator. The sharp teeth visible even with the mouth closed. The powerful muscles under fur that seemed to shift colors in the light. A Ravex cub. It saw her immediately. For one frozen moment, they stared at each other across the space between them. Hana's training told her to freeze, to activate her emergency beacon, to run, but the cub didn't charge. It didn't growl or bare its teeth. Instead, it took a step forward, its head tilted to one side. Curious, just curious. Hana slowly stood up from behind her rock. The cub watched her rise. It took another step. Then another. It was coming right toward her with the confident walk of something that had never known fear. This was the moment that would change everything. Hana just didn't know it yet. The Ravex cub moved closer. Each step was careful but confident. It walked the way a young wolf might walk, testing boundaries, learning its place in the world. Hana could hear Thriss and Prex shouting through her radio earpiece, but their voices seemed far away. All of her attention was focused on the creature in front of her. It circled her once. Its nose was working, taking in her scent. Hana could smell it too, a mix of fur and earth and something wild. The cub was bigger up close than it had seemed from a distance. Its shoulder reached her hip. Those teeth could easily tear through her suit if it wanted. The cub completed its circle and came back to face her. Then, almost playfully, it darted forward and nipped at her boot. The teeth didn't break through the tough material, but Hana felt the pressure. This wasn't an attack. She had seen this behavior 1,000 times on Earth. Dogs did it. Wolves did it. Even cats sometimes did it. The cub was testing her, trying to figure out where she fit in its understanding of the world. Every piece of training from the Galactic Council told Hana to run, to freeze, to trigger her emergency beacon and hope the ship could extract her in time. She could hear Thriss screaming that they were coming with weapons. Prex was already calling for an emergency evacuation, but something deeper than training took over. Something that came from millions of years of human evolution. Something that had made humans the dominant species on Earth, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they understood predators better than any other creature. Hana looked down at the cub. She met its eyes directly, and then she did something that would seem completely insane to any other species in the galaxy. She pointed at it. One finger extended, aimed directly at the young Ravex. Her arm was straight. Her posture was tall and commanding. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The gesture carried everything it needed to carry. The effect was immediate and stunning. The cub's entire body language changed in an instant. Its confident posture collapsed like someone had cut its strings. The ear-like structures on the sides of its head flattened against its skull. Its tail, which had been raised high, dropped low. And then, as if someone had commanded it in words it could understand, the cub sat down heavily on its haunches. The sound it made was something between a whine and a whimper. A high-pitched noise of complete submission. Hana stared. Her hand was still pointing. She slowly lowered it, not quite believing what had just happened. The cub stayed sitting, looking up at her with what could only be described as respect, mixed with a little bit of fear. Behind her, she heard running footsteps. Thriss and Prex burst through the trees, weapons raised. They stopped so fast that Thriss nearly fell over. "What?" Prex whispered. "What did you do?" "I don't know," Hana said honestly. She was still looking at the cub. I pointed. You pointed, Thriss repeated. His voice was flat with disbelief. You pointed at an apex predator, at a Ravex, and it submitted. The cub was still sitting. It looked between Hana and the two aliens. When Thriss took a step forward with his weapon raised, the cub growled. Not at Hana, at Thriss. Lower your weapon, Hana said quickly. You're making it nervous. I am making it nervous? Thriss's voice went up an octave. Human, that creature could kill all three of us. But it won't, Hana said. She felt strangely certain of this. Look at its body language. It's protecting me now. It thinks I'm part of its pack. Prex was scanning the cub with a device. This is impossible. In all recorded history, no species has ever dominated a Ravex through physical presence alone. The Kelvorians tried. Many died. The Kelvorians probably came in shooting, Hana said. She slowly knelt down, making herself smaller. The cub's ears perked up. They treated the Ravex like enemies. But what if we've been wrong? What if the Ravex aren't monsters? What if they're just animals with complex social structures like pack hunters on Earth? She extended her hand slowly toward the cub. Thriss made a choking sound, but the cub leaned forward and sniffed her fingers. Then incredibly it pressed its head against her palm. Hana felt the warmth of its fur. She felt it breathing, and she felt something click into place in her understanding. This was a young creature learning about the world. It had tested her dominance, and she had responded in exactly the right way. Not with violence, not with fear, but with calm, absolute authority. We need to get back to the ship, Prex said. The captain must know about this. Will I be in trouble? Hana asked. Trouble? Prex's large eyes seemed to get even larger. You have just done something no species in the galaxy has ever done. You have made a Ravex submit without weapons, without violence, with just a gesture. The Galactic Council will either celebrate you as a hero or lock you up for being dangerously insane. They started walking back to the landing craft. Hana expected the cub to follow, but it stayed by the rocks. It watched them go with those intelligent eyes. Just before they entered the trees, Hana looked back. The cub was still sitting there. Still watching, she had a feeling this wasn't the last time she would see it. Back on the ship, Captain Jinwoo listened to their report in silence. He watched the video recordings from their suit cameras 3 times. Each time his expression grew more complicated. This changes everything, he finally said. Sir? Hana asked. Jinwoo stood up and walked to his window overlooking the planet. The Galactic Council has spent 200 years classifying certain species as forever hostile. The Ravex are at the top of that list. 3 species have lost hundreds of lives trying to colonize Ravex worlds. They've given up, declared it impossible. But it's not impossible, Hana said. I proved that today. You proved that a human can do it, Jinwoo corrected. The question is why? Why did that work for you when it failed for everyone else? Hana had been thinking about this during the flight back. Humans evolved differently than most species in the galaxy. We were predators, yes, but we were also prey sometimes. We learned to read the body language of creatures that could kill us. We learned to domesticate wolves and make them into dogs. We learned to live with cats, with horses, with animals that were dangerous but could become partners. Most species evolved as prey animals, Prex added. The Ylanti scout had been quiet since returning to the ship. My people developed technology to protect ourselves from predators. We built walls and weapons. We never tried to understand them or befriend them. And my people evolved as ambush predators, Thriss said. We hunt alone. We don't form packs. The concept of pack hierarchy is foreign to us. But humans, Jinwoo said slowly, humans are both predator and pack animal. You hunt together. You form hierarchies. You understand dominance and submission on an instinctive level. It's more than that, Hana said. When I pointed at that cub, I wasn't thinking. I was operating on pure instinct. The same instinct that made early humans able to tame wolves. The same instinct that lets us read dog body language without thinking about it. It's in our DNA. Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. The Galactic Council is going to lose their minds. What do you mean? Hana asked. I mean that you've just discovered humanity's secret weapon, Jinwoo said. Not our technology, not our intelligence, but our ability to look at the most dangerous predators in the universe and make them sit down with just a pointed finger. He turned to face them all. Dr. Choi, how would you like to make this an official research project? I have a feeling that cub is going to come back. Hana thought about those intelligent eyes, about the way the cub had pressed its head into her palm, about the feeling of connection she had felt. Yes, sir, she said. I think it will. The messages from the Galactic Council started arriving within hours. Angry messages, confused messages, messages demanding that Hana return to Earth immediately for questioning, messages threatening to shut down the entire human space program. Captain Jinwoo deleted most of them. Let them complain, he said. We're on to something important here. Something that could change humanity's position in the galaxy forever. He was right about one thing. The cub came back. Hana named it Bomb, which meant spring in Korean. It seemed fitting for a young creature full of energy and curiosity. Bomb appeared at the research camp perimeter the very next day. It sat just outside the security fence, watching the humans move around. Thriss refused to come outside when Bomb was near. Prex would watch from a distance, scanning and taking notes, but never getting close. The other crew members treated Bomb like a bomb that might explode at any moment. Only Hana approached the young Ravix without fear. She brought food at first. Meat from the ship's supplies. Bomb sniffed it carefully before eating. Then Hana would sit nearby, not too close, just existing in the same space. Sometimes she talked. Sometimes she was quiet. She let Bomb get used to her presence. Within a week, Bomb was comfortable enough to let Hana touch its head. Within 2 weeks, it would follow her around the outside of the camp like a giant puppy. And within 3 weeks, something even more surprising happened. Bomb brought friends. Hana was outside the fence one morning when she saw them coming. 3 more juvenile Ravix, slightly smaller than Bomb. They approached cautiously, staying behind Bomb like children hiding behind an older sibling. Oh no, she heard Thriss say over the radio. There are more of them. We should evacuate immediately. Nobody is evacuating. Captain Jinwoo's voice cut through. Dr. Choi, how do you want to handle this? Hana took a slow breath. Her heart was racing, but she kept her body language calm and relaxed. Same way I handled Bomb, I'm going to establish dominance. She walked toward the 4 young Ravix. Bomb made a happy chirping sound and bounded forward. The other 3 tensed, ready to run. Hana stopped a few meters away and pointed at each of them in turn. The same thing happened that had happened with Bomb. Their ears flattened. Their tails dropped. One by one they sat down. Incredible, breathed a new voice. Hana turned to see Dr. Taeyang Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, standing at the fence with his scanning equipment. I'm reading their hormone levels. Their cortisol is spiking, but not from fear exactly. It's more like submission. They're recognizing you as dominant in their pack hierarchy, but why? Hana asked. What am I doing that other species can't? Taeyang was frantically making notes. I have a theory, but I need more data. Can you interact with them more? Maybe try some different gestures? Over the next few hours, Hana experimented. She found that direct eye contact combined with certain postures would make the young Ravix submit. A pointed finger with a stern expression worked best. But she also discovered that gentle tones and non-threatening postures would make them relax and become playful. By the end of the day, all 4 juveniles were comfortable around her. They would play fight with each other while she watched. They would bring her interesting rocks or pieces of wood like dogs bringing toys. And when she stood up to leave, they would whine and follow her to the fence line. This is revolutionary, Taeyang said that evening in the research lab. He had holograms floating all around him, showing charts and data. I've been analyzing everything. Your pheromones, your subsonic vocalizations, your body language. And I think I figured it out. The rest of the senior staff gathered around. Captain Jinwoo, Thriss, Prex, and several human crew members who had joined the mission. Humans are unique in the galaxy, Taeyang began. Most spacefaring species evolved from prey animals. They developed big brains to outsmart predators. They built tools and eventually technology to protect themselves. Species like the Kelvorians, the Yulanti, even the Threx. They see predators as threats to be eliminated or avoided. He pulled up an image of Earth. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. We chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We hunted in packs. We developed complex social hierarchies. And most importantly, we learned to live alongside other predators. We domesticated wolves, Hana said, understanding dawning. Exactly. Taeyang was excited now. Humans are the only species in the known galaxy that turned apex predators into companions. You took wolves, creatures that could easily kill a human, and over thousands of years you made them into dogs. You did the same with cats. Even horses and cattle were dangerous animals that you learned to work with. So humans naturally understand pack behavior, Jinwoo said. More than that, Taeyang said. Humans produce micro-expressions and pheromones that trigger submission responses in pack predators. When Hana points at a Ravex, she's not just making a gesture. She's unconsciously sending a dozen signals that say, "I am the alpha here." Her eyes, her posture, her scent, even subsonic frequencies in her voice. All of it combines to create an overwhelming dominance signal. Prex spoke up. "You're saying humans are biologically designed to dominate predators?" "In a way, yes," Taeyang said. "Humans are simultaneously predator and pack animal. You have forward-facing eyes like hunters. You have the social complexity of herd animals. You can read and produce pack hierarchy signals that most species don't even know exist. The Ravex aren't responding to Hana's training or technology. They're responding to millions of years of her evolutionary biology." The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. "The Galactic Council is going to panic," Thriss said finally. "They already fear humans a little. This will make it worse. Or it could make our position stronger," Jinwoo said thoughtfully. "3 species have failed to establish contact with the Ravex. If humans can succeed where everyone else failed, it proves we have value. It proves we deserve our place in the galactic community." "There's something else," Taeyang said. "I've been monitoring the adult Ravex in the area. They know the juveniles are visiting us. They're watching from a distance." "And they haven't attacked. What does that mean?" Hana asked. "I think it means they're curious," Taeyang said. "The juveniles have accepted you into their pack structure. Now the adults are trying to figure out where you fit in the larger pack hierarchy." As if to prove his point, the security sensors chimed. On the monitors, they could see movement at the edge of the camp. "Something big." "Several big somethings," adult Ravex, Prex whispered. 5 of them. "They're approaching the fence. Everyone moved to the windows." In the fading light of the alien sunset, Hana could see them clearly. These weren't playful cubs. These were full-grown predators, each one nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Their teeth gleamed. Their muscles rippled under their fur. They moved with the terrible grace of creatures that had never been prey to anything. "What do we do?" someone asked. All eyes turned to Hana. She looked out at the massive predators. Fear tried to rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. She thought about Bomb and the other juveniles. She thought about the wolves that became dogs. She thought about every human who had ever looked at a dangerous animal and seen not just a threat, but a potential partner. "I'm going out there," she said. "That's suicide," Thriss said flatly. "Maybe," Hana admitted. "But it's also an opportunity. If we're right about humans understanding pack behavior, then those adults are here for a reason. They want to assess me. They want to understand what I am and where I fit." "And if you're wrong?" Prex asked. Hana smiled, though her hands were shaking. "Then I guess we'll find out very quickly." Captain Jinwoo studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "If you're doing this, we do it right. Full medical monitoring. Weapons on standby. But nobody fires unless I give the direct order. Understood?" Everyone nodded. Hana walked to the airlock. As she prepared to step outside, Taeyang's voice came through her earpiece. "Remember, you're not just a human to them. You're a potential pack member. Show confidence, show dominance when needed, but also show that you understand pack structure. You've got this." Hana took a deep breath and stepped out into the alien night to meet the apex predators of Verath 7. The adult Ravex stopped moving when Hana stepped through the gate. 5 pairs of eyes locked onto her. In the dim light, those eyes seemed to glow. Hana could feel her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She walked forward slowly. Not aggressive, but not afraid either. Every predator could smell fear, and showing it now would be the worst thing she could do. The largest Ravex, a massive creature with scars across its face, took a step toward her. This had to be the pack leader, the alpha. Hana stopped walking and stood still, making herself tall, making direct eye contact. The alpha Ravex growled. It was a sound that Hana felt in her bones, a sound that spoke of death and danger. Behind her, she heard someone gasp over the radio. Someone else was praying quietly, but Hana didn't look away. She didn't run. Instead, she did something that felt completely insane. She pointed at the alpha just like she had pointed at Bomb. For a moment, nothing happened. The alpha continued to growl. Its teeth were fully visible now, each one as long as Hana's hand. It could cross the distance between them in less than a second. It could tear her apart before anyone could react. Then, slowly, the growling stopped. The alpha sat down. Hana heard someone shout in surprise from the research station. but she kept her focus on the massive predator in front of her. The other 4 adults were watching, their heads tilted, trying to understand what had just happened. Hana lowered her pointing hand. The Alpha's ears came up slightly. Not aggressive, but alert, interested. She took a careful step forward. Then another. The Alpha didn't move, just watched her approach. When she was close enough to touch it, Hana slowly extended her hand. The Alpha sniffed it carefully. Its nose was wet and cold against her palm. Then incredibly, it made a sound that was almost like a purr. "Oh my God," Taeyang's voice came through her earpiece. "Your biosigns just made its biosigns stabilize. You're calming it down, just by being near it." Hana gently placed her hand on the Alpha's head. The fur was thick and warm. She could feel the powerful muscles underneath. This creature could kill her so easily, but right now, in this moment, it was choosing not to. "Good," she said softly. "You're a good one, aren't you? You were just checking on your young ones, making sure they were safe." The Alpha made another sound, deeper this time. "Content." The other 4 adults visibly relaxed. One of them approached Hana carefully. She extended her other hand toward it, and it also accepted her touch. "This is impossible," Thriss said over the radio. His voice was full of wonder. "The Kelvorians sent warriors. The Ylanti sent diplomats. The Threk sent scientists. All of them failed. And here is one small human, petting the creatures that destroyed 3 expeditions." "It's not impossible," Captain Jinwoo said quietly. "It's just something only a human could do." Hana spent the next hour with the adult Raveks. She learned their body language, their sounds, their way of communicating. When she sat down, they sat near her. When she stood, they stood. They were accepting her as part of their pack, but more than that. They were treating her as a high-ranking member. Not the Alpha, but close to it. As the night deepened, the adults eventually left, melting back into the shadows. But Hana knew they would return. A barrier had been broken. A bridge had been built between humans and the most dangerous predators on this world. The next few weeks were busy. More humans arrived from Earth. Scientists, linguists, animal behaviorists. They all wanted to study the Raveks to understand this connection that Hana had discovered. Dr. Somin Bak, a linguist, made an important discovery. The Raveks communicated using subsonic frequencies that most species couldn't hear, but humans could hear them just barely. It was like a deep rumble felt more than heard. Salman created a translation program that helped them understand basic Raveks communication. Dr. Hyun Kang, a behavioral specialist, confirmed what Hana had suspected. The Raveks had complex family structures, art, even primitive tool use. They weren't mindless killers. They were intelligent beings with their own culture, but not everyone was happy about the human success. Ambassador Nari Song arrived from Earth to see the progress. She was a stern woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She came with news from the Galactic Council. "The Council is divided," Nari told them in a private meeting. "Half of them are amazed by what you've done. They see potential for opening up dozens of Raveks worlds that were previously considered lost." "And the other half?" Jinwoo asked. "The other half is terrified," Nari said bluntly. "They're afraid of humans. Afraid of a species that can walk up to apex predators and make them submit. Some council members are calling for restrictions on human expansion. They say we're too dangerous." "That's ridiculous," Hana said. "We're not trying to dominate anyone. We're just trying to coexist with the Raveks." "I know that," Nari said. "You know that. But to species that evolved as prey, the idea of predator-dominant beings is terrifying, and humans are predator-dominant. We have the eyes. We have the instincts. We have the ability to stare down creatures that would make other species run screaming." Before they could discuss it further, alarms blared throughout the station. Frex rushed into the room. "Kelvorian military ships just entered orbit," the scout said. "Commander Velrus is demanding to land with a full battalion." "Velrus," Jinwoo said the name like a curse. "He lost family in the Kelvorian expedition to a Raveks world. He's always been vocal about declaring these planets permanently hostile." "He's here to sabotage us," Nari said. "If he can prove the Raveks are still dangerous, he can get the Council to shut down your research and declare Varath 7 off limits forever." They tried to deny Velrus permission to land, but the Galactic Council overruled them. Within hours, Kelvorian soldiers were setting up their own camp on the opposite side of the valley, from the human research station. Commander Velrus was a large Kelvorian with 4 arms and cold eyes. He demanded a meeting with Hana. "You've tricked the Ravek somehow," he said without preamble. "Used drugs or technology. There's no way a simple gesture could dominate an apex predator." "It's not a trick," Hana said calmly. "It's biology. Humans evolved to understand and work with predators. The Raveks respond to our body language and pheromones." "Lies," Velrus spat. "I'll prove it. My people will conduct proper tests. Real tests. We'll show the council that these creatures are still monsters." That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She had a bad feeling about Velrus. The next morning confirmed her fears. Kelvorian soldiers had placed weapons near one of the Ravek's dens, not to protect themselves but to provoke. They were trying to make the Raveks attack so they could justify a violent response. Hana ran from the human camp toward the den. She could see Bomb and the other juveniles near the weapons, curious and confused. She could see adult Raveks emerging from the trees, sensing danger but not understanding it. And she could see Kelvorian soldiers with their weapons ready, waiting for an excuse to fire. "Stop!" Hana shouted.
"Stand down!"
But Velrus appeared from behind a rock. "You have no authority here, human. We're about to show the galaxy what these monsters really are." One of the soldiers made a loud noise with his weapon. The juveniles scattered in fear. The adults snarled and moved forward to protect their young, exactly what Velrus wanted. "Fire," he commanded. But before the soldiers could shoot, something unexpected happened. Bomb, nearly full-grown now, charged forward, but not at the humans, at the Kelvorian soldiers. The other juveniles followed. Then the adults. Within seconds, a dozen Raveks had positioned themselves between the Kelvorian forces and the human research camp. They were protecting Hana, protecting the humans. Velrus stared in shock. What are they doing?" "They're protecting their pack," Hana said. She walked forward right through the line of Raveks. They parted for her, making gentle sounds. She stood between them and the Kelvorian soldiers. "The Raveks don't see us as prey or as enemies. They see us as pack members, and pack members protect each other." Bomb came to stand beside Hana. The massive young Raveks pressed against her side, a low rumble in its chest. A warning to the Kelvorians. "Don't threaten our pack." Velrus's hand was shaking on his weapon. "This is impossible." "No," Hana said. "This is humanity. This is what we do. We make friends with predators. We build bridges instead of walls, and we prove that coexistence is possible." She turned to look at the Raveks around her, at Bomb, who had started this whole journey with a playful nip at her boot, at the adults who had chosen to trust her, at a future that suddenly seemed full of possibilities. "The question is, Commander Velrus, are you going to help us build that future, or are you going to stand in the way?" The standoff lasted for 3 tense hours. Kelvorian soldiers with weapons ready, Raveks protecting the humans, and Hana standing in the middle, refusing to back down. Finally, it was Ambassador Nari who broke the deadlock. She contacted the Galactic Council directly, broadcasting live footage of the scene. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched as the supposedly mindless monsters defended humans from an armed military force. The Council had no choice. They called an emergency session. Commander Velrus was ordered to stand down immediately. His weapons were confiscated. He was recalled to the Kelvorian homeworld to face questions about why he had tried to provoke an incident. As his ships left orbit, Hana saw him staring down at the planet with something like hatred in his eyes. But the damage was done. Not to the research project, but to the old way of thinking. The galaxy had seen something it couldn't explain away. Humans working with apex predators. Predators choosing to protect humans. A relationship that should have been impossible. The Galactic Council debated for days. The humans waited, continuing their work with the Raveks. Bomb stayed close to Hana during this time, as if sensing her stress. The young Raveks was nearly full-grown now, already showing signs of becoming a pack leader someday. When the Council's decision finally came, it was unprecedented. For the first time in galactic history, they recognized a non-spacefaring species as having diplomatic protection under an existing member species. The Raveks were now officially under human guardianship. Raveks worlds would be open to human settlement and research. And most importantly, humans would serve as intermediaries between the Raveks and the broader galactic community. There was more. The Council requested that humans share their knowledge of predator behavior with other species. They wanted humans to help them establish peaceful relations with dangerous fauna on their own worlds, species that had been hiding from or fighting their planets. predators for thousands of years, could now learn a different way. Hana was offered a position as director of the new interspecies Predator Relations Institute. It was a fancy title for an important job. She would lead teams of humans to dozens of worlds, teaching other species how to coexist with creatures they had always feared. "Will you accept?" Captain Jinwoo asked. He was smiling, proud of what they had accomplished. "Yes," Hana said, "but I have one condition. My base of operations stays here on Varath 7. This is where it all started. This is where Baum taught me that friendship can exist between the most unlikely species." The council agreed. In the months that followed, the research station grew into a small city. Humans arrived from Earth eager to work with the Ravex. Scientists, teachers, families. They built homes near the Ravex dens. Children grew up playing with Ravex cubs. The two species learned each other's languages, each other's customs. Dr. Taeyang Kim's research became required reading at every xenobiology institute in the galaxy. His work on human evolutionary advantages was revolutionary. Other species started to see humans not as weak newcomers to the galactic stage, but as uniquely qualified for certain roles that no one else could fill. Dr. Somin Bayek created a full Ravex dictionary. The language was complex, mixing subsonic rumbles with physical gestures and scent markers. But humans could learn it because they could hear those subsonic frequencies, because they understood body language in ways that other species didn't. Dr. Hyung Kang discovered that Ravex had art. They carved patterns in rocks, arranged colored stones in meaningful ways, even created something like music using hollow logs and stones. The galaxy had assumed they were mindless killers. They were actually a sophisticated culture that had simply been misunderstood. Captain Jinwoo was promoted to oversee all human diplomatic missions to predator-inhabited worlds. His first assignment was the Therox pack hunters of the Deneb system, another species that had destroyed multiple expeditions, another species that humans might be able to befriend. But before he left, Jinwoo came to say goodbye to Hana. "You did it," he said, looking out over the human Ravex community that had grown around the research station. "You proved that humans have value in this galaxy, not because of our weapons or our technology, but because of who we are, what we are." "I just pointed at a cub that bit my boot," Hana said with a smile. "You did more than that," Jinwoo said seriously. "You showed the galaxy that predators aren't monsters. That fear doesn't have to lead to violence. That understanding is possible even between species that seem completely different. That's a gift that only humans could give." A year after that first encounter, Hana stood in the same spot where Baum had first approached her. The young Ravex was fully grown now, a powerful pack leader with a family of its own. But Baum still came to visit Hana every day, bringing its own cubs to meet the human who had changed everything. Today was special, though. Today, Hana was preparing for a journey. The Galactic Council had requested her presence on a dozen different worlds. Species that had given up on certain planets wanted human help to reclaim them, to learn how to live alongside the predators instead of fighting them, and Baum was coming with her. The Ravex had proven they could adapt to space travel. More than that, Baum wanted to go. The young Ravex had watched the ships coming and going. It understood in its own way that Hana was important, that she traveled to help others. And Baum wanted to help too. "Are you ready for this?" Ambassador Nari asked. She had become a close friend during the past year. "You're about to become the most famous human in the galaxy. Everywhere you go, you'll be the woman who makes predators sit down." Hana looked at Baum. The massive Ravex looked back at her with intelligent eyes full of trust and affection. She thought about that first day when a curious cub had tested her dominance and she had responded with a simple pointed finger. She thought about how one small gesture had changed the course of galactic history. "I'm ready," she said. They boarded the ship together, human and Ravex. The crew was nervous at first. Even after everything, having an apex predator walking through the corridors was unsettling. But Baum was calm, staying close to Hana, responding to her commands. Their first destination was a Yulanti colony world. The Yulanti had been forced to abandon their settlements because of a predator species they called the Shadow Maws. These creatures hunted in darkness and had killed hundreds of colonists. The Yulanti had given up, declared the world lost, but now they wanted to try again, with human help. The ship entered orbit around the Yulanti world. Hana looked down at the planet, had another chance to prove that coexistence was possible. She felt Bomb press against her side, offering comfort and support. "What do you think?" she asked the Ravex. "Ready to make some new friends?" Bomb made a sound that Hana had learned to recognize as agreement. The massive predator was ready to show another species that the creatures they feared could become their protectors, their partners, their friends. As the ship prepared to land, Hana thought about everything that had led to this moment. She thought about the Galactic Council's old classifications of forever hostile species. She thought about how fear had kept species apart for thousands of years. And she thought about how one simple truth had changed everything. Humans had spent millions of years learning that the most dangerous creatures in the world weren't monsters to be destroyed. They were potential friends waiting to be understood. It was a lesson learned in caves and forests on ancient Earth. A lesson written into human DNA through countless generations of living alongside predators. Now finally, humanity could share that lesson with the galaxy. The ship touched down on the Yulanti world. Hana and Bomb walked down the ramp together to meet the anxious colonists who had gathered to greet them. She saw their fear, saw them looking at Bomb with terror, but she also saw their hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, the humans could teach them a different way. Hana smiled and raised one hand in greeting. Bomb sat down beside her, calm and peaceful. The Yulanti gasped. Already they were learning the first lesson. Predators weren't monsters. They were beings who could choose peace, who could choose friendship, who could sit down whining when a human pointed a finger, not because they were weak, but because they understood something that the galaxy was only beginning to learn. The pack takes care of its own, and humans had a gift for making even the most dangerous creatures understand that they could be part of the pack. As the sun set on the Yulanti world, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Hana began to teach. And the galaxy began to change. One predator at a time, one friendship at a time, one pointed finger at a time. The story of how a predator cub nipped a human's boot and sat down whining at a pointed finger would be told across the galaxy for generations. But for Hana, it was never just a story. It was a beginning. The first step in a journey that would transform how the galaxy understood strength, understood fear, and understood the incredible potential that existed when different species chose to see each other not as threats, but as friends. And it all started with one small gesture, one pointed finger, one moment of understanding between human and predator. One moment that proved humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their ships or their technology. It was their heart, their willingness to look at the monsters of the universe and see potential partners, their gift for making friends in the most unlikely places, their ability to turn predators into family. That was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.